Good morning, everybody who all are present over here. As Mehanga just introduced me, I'm Dipendra and I'm working as a professor in the Amity Business School, and I teach subjects related to marketing and entrepreneurship. So, first of all, I would like to welcome all of you on this webinar, and where I think we are going to discuss something related to management education and how it's going to help us in the corporate in getting the position to a corporate leadership. So if you permit me, I think then we can start. So students, the first PPT say, I think right now we all are in this position where we can see that we are still preparing something, and our future is that I want to get to a corporate leadership. This is what I want to be. So I think our entire presentation will be focused on the management education and what a corporate leadership is and what are the various skills or the traits are required by a corporate leader and how your management education can help you in doing so. So we start with the main presentation. Now, the first thing that I think students that we should be keeping in mind before we do anything is not related to this webinar only. In your life also, the first thing is that we should always know where we are and where we want to go. For example, if you have decided to be a part of this webinar, it means that you have got something clear in your mind that what is the future, what are the future career you want to aspect. So the first thing that I would like to share with you is a very good analysis with a very good concept that we all should follow, whether you are into field of management or anywhere in your life. Now it reads as a gaps analysis. As the name itself suggests, it's an acronym in students, and it itself suggests that it is a gap between where I am right now and where I want to be. So the basic purpose, the entire activity or the entire action that I do, they are related to what I am going to do that take me from my present position to my future position. Now, what does this acronym basically means? Now, G is for goal. Now you have decided that this is the goal that I want to I will have in my future. Somebody would like to be a painter, somebody would like to be a chef, somebody would like to be an actor, but somebody would like to make his career into the field of the management. So I assume that all those people who are attending this webinar, either they have decided to be a part of a corporate world, or they are still into a dilemma and they want certain clarity whether they should be joining the corporate world or not. So I hope by the end of this webinar you would be very much clear with this goal. And secondly, now when you decide any goal, all the goals are not meant for everybody. Although it is said that impossible is a word found in a fool's dictionary, but practically student, we do not have all those skills which every. I cannot be a good painter, or Sachin Tendulkar cannot play as football as Ronaldo can play, or Ronaldo cannot play cricket as Sachin Tendulkar can play. So the next thing that we have to do, the after making the deciding our tentative goal, that we should make a very genuine assessment of our abilities. Do I have those abilities which will take me to the goal that I desire to? Now, it's a very big topic, but I would like to brief it. Now, when you are doing the assessment of ability, basically we are talking about a SWOT analysis. Now, as you most of you may be knowing that S is for strength, W is for weaknesses, O is for opportunities, and T is for your threat. So what basically we are trying to say is when you are making the assessment of your abilities students, you should know what are your strengths and weaknesses. And similarly, what are the opportunities and threats right now you are having. Now, the basic difference is that the strengths and weaknesses are something which are within me. That you would be knowing what are your strengths, that what are your weaknesses. We can lie to others, but we cannot lie to ourselves. So if I have some weakness, I have my weakness, and there's nothing wrong in accepting that weakness, because once you accept that weakness, only then you are able to improvise upon it. And then you have the opportunities in the environment that is providing to you, and similarly the threat that is being provided around the world. Now the word that is what you call as a P. Now once you have identified your goals, once you have made an assessment about the ability of yourself, then comes the question of perception. Although we say that we should not be paying a lot much attention what the people are saying, that's absolutely true. क्योंकि सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग. So many a time what happens, students, we try to do something, but people pull our leg down. They do not. They will always criticize us. But even then, there are few people in our life whose feedback matters a lot. So whenever I am talking about a feedback, we should be very cautious with those people who can. For example, your parents, they are always going to give you the genuine feedback. Your teachers are going to be give you the genuine feedback. So you should know from whom you have to take a feedback about your future goals. And another interesting word that I have mentioned over here, student, is self-reflection. What does it mean? Now, in today's scenario, what I personally feel that when we take the interviews of the MBA and the BBA aspirants who come to MIT University, now one of the very general questions that is expected and that everybody asks you, okay, tell me something about yourself. Now, the question is so simple, but usually, to my surprise, many of the time, the students are not very much clear about themselves. The reason being is that we are too busy in talking to other people on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, that we are talking to others, but we do not find time to talk to ourselves. So until and unless you do not talk to yourself, you will not be able to know what you really are. You will not be knowing what your strengths are. You won't be knowing what your really interests are. You won't be knowing why you want to do a management program or why you want to do any program for that matter. Is it just because your friend is doing, or is something that really you want to do? So the first thing or that I will suggest to you, that you should always find certain amount of time per day to talk to yourself. Until unless you do not introspect, until unless you do not talk to yourself, student, you will not be able to connect with yourself. And once you do not connect yourself, then you may be knowing what you want to do in the future. And the last step of this is your standards. Now, for example, after your class 12, now this is what I've been told, that we are having the students who have done who are in class 12 as well at the graduation level. So I assume that even after the class 12 or even after your graduation, you are having number of options. You are having number of options, like in the form you can go for different programs. But since you are again a part of this webinar, I assume that you have decided to be a part of a leadership program. You want to be a corporate leader, and this itself shows that you are ready to face the rigor that the MBA program or the BBA program is going to do, because you are ready to go for the rigor. Why? Because you have raised your bar, you have raised your standard, that you want to be a class apart from the other people. You do not want to be a face in the crowd, rather you want to be the face in the crowd. And as a result, you have raised your bar, and rather than choosing some any other simple programs like in the art or something in the commerce, you decided that you want to be a management part. So now I assume that this is the gaps analysis that we all should be doing and we all should do. Once this is done, it will help you a lot. Now, the second question comes, students. You know that to become a doctor, you need to have an MBBS degree. To become an engineer, you need to have a BTech degree. But to become a manager in an organization, MBA degree is not required. Yes, if it is there, it can be an added advantage, but it is not an eligibility. You may be knowing that there are so many people across the different companies who have not done their MBA. They are simple either graduates in the field of BCom or even in the field of art side, or they have done their PG in the but they are from the non-management degree. But even then, they are. So now the questions come, when I can be a corporate manager or when I can get a job into a corporate world without doing my MBA or BBA. Why should I invest 2 years or 3 years in this education? Why should I invest so much amount of energy into this program? That is a very important question. Because until unless we are not clear that why you are doing anything, students, the even if you get admission into the MBA, the directions will not be that much clear. Now, what I will try to answer this question by explaining a dichotomy, that we plan for future, isn't it? You cannot do the planning for the past because past is not in my control. You always plan for future. But the dichotomy, students, is that future is uncertain. When you do not know what is going to happen in tomorrow, what is going to happen the very next moment, then what is the objective of doing the planning? You never knew that corona is going to come this way and the world is going to change. So we were having different plans, but future has different plan for us. You do not know what the universe has planned for us. So when the question comes, when everything is so uncertain, when the future is not in my control, then why should I care about planning? The simple answer to this question, student, is that yes, no doubt, we cannot control our external environment. We cannot make our losses zero. But if you are planned well, then the chances are there that you can minimize the losses that can happen if you are not prepared at all. So in a situation, the environment remains the same, the external environment remains the same, but in one situation, a student is prepared, in another situation, the student is unprepared. The probability is that the student who is prepared, he is going to suffer the minimum amount of losses. So that is why if similarly, if you go for the MBA and BBA program and then you go into the corporate leadership, so whatever the nuances of the business that you will be taught during your BBA and MBA program, it will help you in managing the corporate world in a much better way. The decisions that you are going to take and the systematic approach that you are going to adopt during your BBA and MBA program will increase the probability of your becoming a very, very successful manager. So this is the reason that despite the fact management degree is not a prerequisite, I think MBA or a BBA is a good option for us. Now there's another thing that I have written which is not directly, that is cash to cash. So now everybody wants money in his life. Why do I want money in my life? It's not only for my own family. Even if you want to serve the community, if you want to make some donation to the people, you need money. The life runs on money. But and you will not be able to get the cash, student, until unless you do not invest another cash. So if you can read that I have written spelling what you have said, it is KASH. If you pronounce it, it is also cash. Now, if you want CASH cash, this cash will only be possible if you are ready to make certain investment. And what is that investment that is expected out of you is in the form of KASH. What is that? It is K is for knowledge, A is for your attitude, S is for your skills, and H is for your habits. So this cash is when you go for a management program help you in developing this cash. And once you are adopt in the 2 years or the 3 years of your rigor program, once you are having this cash, then you end up landing up with a good job in a good MNC, and as a result, you get a good cash. So this was the backdrop with which I wanted to start my presentation. Now let us see what are the basically skills that are required in today's scenario, students. Now what I have mentioned over here is that leadership skills in the digital world. Now you can very well imagine the world is changing at a space. You blink of an eye and there's a sudden change. New technology has come up. Few days back, we could not have imagined that we would be having these type of webinars. By sitting just at the comfort at our home, we would be interacting with the people not only from India, but the people from abroad as well. Now, number of webinars are taking place where the world-class leaders, they are communicating with lot many people. So it is why it has happened because of the digital revolution. And you, the people of millennium education, you are much more advanced than a person of my age digital. Now we do struggle to become more digitized. We have to struggle more to get more digital education. But your genes, you are highly digitized. Now here I mentioned AI is a new IT. You all know what AI is. AI is your artificial intelligence. Now few years back in the 90s, students, when the web came, when the World Wide Web, WWW, or this IT was evolving, now it changed the way the world works. The speed, the decision making process, everything changed. Now similarly, now IT is going to be at the backdrop. It will be taken for granted. Now the new thing that is coming out is the artificial intelligence. This artificial intelligence is going to change, or is rather has started changing the way we live. It has started changing the way the things are moving. It has changed the way the business are being run, and it may even replace the teacher. Tomorrow you may not know that there may be a hologram of a particular teacher, and the same person may be teaching at 100 different locations, and you may be having a feeling that you are interacting in person. So now Internet of Things, your augmented reality and virtual reality, all things you must be knowing. And second thing, very, very important thing is data as a new oil. Now can you imagine the significance of data? Now people are saying that the election of America was fudged by Russia. Now what basically they are doing over there? Or now there was a recently there was a claim that the Zoom data has been hacked. So now why everybody is after the data? Now you know that we are using Facebook, we are using Twitter, we are using Instagram, and all those type of new platforms. So the amount of the data that is being generated, it's in terabytes. It's a humongous data, and it's very difficult to make some sense out of that data. Now that is why now everybody is after data, because data means what? Data means that you get an understanding about the thinking process of the customer. Your business is all because of customer. You come to understand what are the likings and the disliking of the customer, what are his preferences, and once you are having that type of information, then you can definitely develop your strategies in accordance to this. And this is what we are trying to say in today's digital density is increasing very high day by day. So what do I mean by the word digital density? Now, student, I would just like to share a small my personal experience with all of you. A few days back, when the lockdown happened, and we were being trained that how we are going to take the classes online or how the virtual classes will be taking. So one of the apprehension that we all faculty members and our leadership was having is whether the student, okay, the training is being given to us, that's perfectly fine. Now we know how to take a class. But whether our students who are sitting far away in South, who are sitting in Assam, so we have students from across different part of the country. So will they be, are they educated? Will they be able to cope up with this type of change? And students, believe me, to our surprise, we have underestimated our students. When I say student, it means your generation. I realize that they are almost, as long as they are not sleeping, they are almost online. Any moment you try to connect with them, you will find that they are always there. I have to simply drop a message on a WhatsApp, can we connect? And won't believe, in next 45 seconds, the entire class of 60 students was on my Microsoft Teams. This is the platform that we are using for lecture. So this gives an example. And even if you see that even at your homes, now your mothers may be using the YouTube channels, your father may be using a Facebook. So now virtually everybody is using a internet or digital form in some way or the other. So everybody is connected. So this is what I mean by the word digital density. Although the definition that more and more number of people are using the digitalization, and as a result, what is happening, students? More and more data is being coming out. This is what I was just telling to you. So now, if you are posting something on a Facebook, or if you are buying any book from any particular site, now this is the data which has been recorded by the companies, and now they know that what type of vacations you go to, what type of places you go to for your parties, what type of restaurants do you visit, or what type of places you visit for your vacation. So this is the huge amount of information that is being generated due to this digital density. And a very good example of this is your Amazon. So if you remember, student, few days back, and now Amazon is a huge company, but when it was initiated, it was nothing yet but a one-stop shop for a books, where you could find maximum amount of books. That was the only thing that Amazon was giving. But then came the internet, and with the help of the internet, what they were able to do. So when I was searching some books on my net, next time when I again went for searching of my book on the site, as you must all be also witnessing it, that on the site you will see that they will say, okay, similar books are also recommended. So now how did they come to know? Because the data that they are having about me with them, they use that data to understand my taste. They use that data to understand my preferences. And now they have gone a step further. Now you have Kindle with you. So now there are certain technologies which can give you the experience of a product even. So usually when we go to any brick and mortar business, or when we go to any showroom, we have a feeling of touching the things. If I buy something, I want to have a feel of that thing. Similarly, if I purchase any product, let us say I purchase toothpaste, I have a feeling of touching those things. So now the technologies are coming where they are going to provide you the experience of that product as well. So now what we are trying to say now, since the things, the world are changing, the world is changing, the world is shifting to a virtual reality, the world is shifting to more and more digitalization. So now as a leader of future, we cannot survive in the company with the mindset of the conventional way of doing the business. This is what I call as a digital mindset. So now the leaders of today, they need to have a digital mindset. And then you see, I have used one and the word blended. Now, the simple meaning of a blended is there that when you are combining two or more things. Now, in the past, there has been a certain ways of doing the business, and in future, there are certain other requirements that are coming up. So although we have to go from present to my future, although I have to shift from my current way of doing the business, students, to the new ways of doing the business, but the Rome cannot be built in a day. It will take some time for me to shift entirely onto this digital platform. So now, as on date, the time where we are having this presentation, students, the industry is standing in a way where they cannot leave the previous things and they cannot 100% adopt the new things. So now the organization exists in a blended form. When I say a blended form, it means that at any given moment of time, any organization is having a combination of the traditional way of doing the thing, and at the same time they are adopting the new technology as well. So now you are going to be a leader in this type of scenario. So if the scenario is changing, then what type of things you would be requiring? What are the skills that are basically a leader in this type of platform would be requiring? This is what I'm going to share with you now. Now, with the help of the digitalization, obviously transparency is come, because lesser the amount of human intervention, transparency will be there. So now, if you see students, the few of the skills that I have mentioned over here, now these skills you will see that they are basically paradoxical, they are contradictory to each other, but they do exist. That is what I mean by the word blended learning. Now they are contradictory, but they are going to exist today, and this is the paradox that we have to manage as a leader of tomorrow. That is a challenge. That is what I have to develop. This is the mindset that I need to develop, because now you do not have to manage only the individual, you have to manage the technology as well. You have to prepare the people to adopt the new technology. This is what I call again as a digital mindset. And let us see, the first paradox that I try to discuss over here is that vision yet empower others. As a leader, you need to provide a vision to your people, but at the same time, you need to empower the people who are working at the bottom. The combination of a top-down vision and a bottom-up empowerment. At top level students, you can make no matter how good plans you can make. But until and unless those plans are not being implemented at the grassroots level, the things are not going to happen. The results are not going to come out. For example, in your army, it is not the colonel or it is not the brigadier who fights on the battle. He does the planning. It is the foot soldier. So the foot soldier should also be empowered with the enough amount of ammunition. He should also be empowered with the enough amount of machine guns or LNG. What is this? Only then they will be able to implement the vision what the brigadier has seen. So now you as a leader, you have to do this thing. You have to provide a vision, and at the same time, you have to empower the people who are at the top, who are at the lower level of your organizational culture. For example, I have mentioned over here Apple. You know that everybody is after iPhone. So if anybody is walking a phone, the dream phone is usually an iPhone. Why is it so? Because of the supreme technologies they are having, because of the hassle-free, the experience that you get by using the Apple phone. So now, do you think that all the ideas or all the new products or all the new technology that have taken place in Apple is because of Steve Jobs? So now Steve Jobs is no more. Even then, the company is doing well. The reason is that student that although there was a vision of a company that we have to be number one, but the leadership of that organization has empowered the employees that anybody, not only the manager, anybody can come out with any idea, and that idea was appreciated. And as a result, many of the new innovation that have taken place in Apple is at that level. So as a leader, you have to ensure this thing. Now, second very interesting paradox is that you have to give up the control, and yet you have to architect the choice. Now the question will definitely come, sir, if I give up a control as a manager, how the people will work? At one point you are saying you should give up the control, and second point you are saying you don't have to give up the control. Now here I would like to also share one very interesting thing with you that is usually bothers me, that we do not want to be controlled by any other. I don't want to be controlled even by my father or by mother. I do not want to be controlled. I want to be absolutely free. But the moment you become a manager and the moment you are having a team with you would like to control them. Why you want to become manager? So that you have a team of 5 or 6 people and you are shouting orders at them, do this, do this, do that. Now this is a paradox. I don't want to be controlled, but I want to control the others. Similarly, the team members of your team, they would not like to be controlled by anybody. So now this is what you have to keep in mind, students, that as a leader, you don't have to control the people, but it does not mean that you let them free. What I'm trying to say over here, now, for example, uh, in an organization, if I am employed, so my manager would expect me that for 8 hours I'm just doing my continuous work, but practically it does not happen. What do the employees do? They go to their laptop, they use their mobile phone, they go to different social websites. Now I cannot control these things. So if I forcefully try to say this thing, what will happen? People are not going to obey me. People are not going to follow me. So what I have to do, I have to give them the alternative choices. What I can do then? Okay, you want to go on a plate, you want to use a social media, so you want to go on a Facebook. Okay, go on a Facebook, no problem. But do not use. You can use the Facebook for these different productive purposes. You can create your own brand. You can increase your own employability. You can be a part of a LinkedIn community. So now the people who would have been using a social media in the office time and which was not considered as productive, now I cannot stop that thing. So as a leader, now what you can do, you can make them use the same social media for their own benefit and for the benefit of your organization. So this is the way you have to manage the paradox of giving up the control and architecting the choices. Third is sustain as disruptor. Again, this is a paradox. How can you sustain if you are disrupting? This is what you always talk about. Now, this is what just I was telling you students in the starting of my presentation. Now, what happened whenever a new technology comes? Whenever new technology comes, the people who would have been already using the old technology, they have become comfortable with it. And whenever a new technology comes, it means they have to learn the new technology. And learning is not that easy. And that is why we say change is always resisted. People do not want to change. They live in a state of comfort. So now they have become comfortable with a particular technology, and now you are using them to use a new technology, resistance will be there. But if you do not disrupt, when I say disrupt, it means that when you do not break your old habits, you will not grow. If you have to grow, then you have to leave your old habit and you have to change with the changing environment. Now, what happened in your organization? You are a leader, you are leading a team, but your team is not ready to change. They are quite apprehensive. Now, this is where you have to become a role as a leader, where you have to you have to act as a bridge between the things which are existing and the things which you are going to implement in the future. Once you are able to act, once you are able to develop that bridge, once you are able to connect your older employees mindset with the newer mindset, your organization is going to grow. Next is rely on data yet trust your intuition. Now data has got no emotions and intuition has got no rationality. These are two paradox. When you talk about data, one means one. One simply means one, it does not mean anything else. But intuition means so many things. So now on one aspect, we are saying you have to rely on data. And what does it mean? That because I have just asked, we have already discussed that Amazon, the Google, and the different companies, they are looking my data. They are looking my buying habits. They are looking my preferences. They are watching what type of restaurants I'm visiting. So now they are developing their products, they are developing their strategies in accordance to that data that they are receiving. Does it mean that I am going to replace the leader? Does it mean that the artificial intelligence or the computer is going to take over the leaders? No, practically no. Why? If you read my last point, students, where I mentioned that intuition plays a role in envisioning the future, helping leaders to formulate hypotheses and define assumptions in today's endless sea of information. Now, what does it mean? That the data that you are having, data itself means nothing. Data in itself means nothing. You have to make some sense out of their data, because data creates information, information creates knowledge, and knowledge creates wisdom. So now this, as you keep on doing the value addition to the set of data that you have received from this data technology, the data or the information in itself will carry no meaning. You need, as an individual, you need to have a leader who can make some sense out of data, so that accordingly you can take your organization to the newer height. So this is what you say, that we have to rely on the data, but at the same time you have to trust your intuition. It cannot be 100% reliability on the data. The last point that I want to discuss is that be skeptical. By the word skeptical, I mean that you should be having some apprehension. मन में एक दुविधा होनी चाहिए, एक doubt होना चाहिए, yet open minded. Now, what happened? Example. So when we were shifting, so the day it was decided that now we are not going to have any more classes. The university is going to be closed because of Corona. So one day before this session, a training program was conducted by our leadership at Amity University, and nobody was having much idea other than the IT people that what a Microsoft Team is, what a Cisco WebEx is. Especially for me, I had no idea that we have this type of platform where we can meet to 60 people or 70 people or 100 people at a given moment of time, where we can have good quality and how to use them. So similarly, what happens? So whenever as a leader you are going to adopt a new technology, students, as a leader, it becomes your foremost responsibility that you should be the first one to adopt that technology. Why? Because if, for example, if as a teacher, my senior wants me that, okay, Dr. Dipen, you have to implement this strategy. And when I'm implementing that strategy, there may be certain issues that I may be facing, or there may be certain challenges. So until and unless you as a leader, you are not well versed with the technology, you will not be able to empathize, you will not be able to understand the problem that your team is going to face. And once you are not doing so, you will have a disconnect with your team members. The important thing that you have to develop is connect. But once you are also comfortable, the first thing that you have done with the technology is that you have undergone that training. So when you say the same thing to the people will think, okay, if my boss is doing so, then I have to do it and I should do it. This is what we are trying to say, that we should be open minded for the new technologies. We should be very, very receptive for the new technologies, but with a word of caution, because every new thing that is coming out into the field of technology may not be relevant to you. It may be relevant for somebody else, but it may not be relevant to you. So you do not need to you do not need to adopt every technology which is coming up in the world. Yes, but you should be very, very open minded, and you should evaluate the new technology that is coming up, whether it is really going to be helpful to my team member. Is it really going to be help them in improving the processes? Is it really help them in reducing their workload? This is what I mean, that be skeptical but yet open minded. Now, students, another important thing before I want to see, just by having these qualities, you will not become a leader. Now, what we have discussed these are the skills that you require to become a leader. But the most important thing to become a leader, in addition to this skill, is what? You cannot be a leader until and unless you do not have the followers. You may be having you may be having the best of the skills. You may be very, very advanced with all those type of latest knowledge. But until and unless you do not have the followers, until and unless people do not follow, you cannot be a leader. I hope you will agree with me. Now, why does it happen that some people become the good leaders and somebody do not become a good leader? Simply reason being is that, students, that as I have just told you, the people who can win the people heart, the people who can win the people's mind, the people who can develop a connect with their team, where you can connect or develop with the team, only then you can be a leader. So this is another aspect of your leadership. Now, how you can connect with the people. Now, very interesting. Now, these are the points which I have taken from two of the research papers which were written by the Harvard Business Review. And very interesting, the outcome that have come from a research is that people would like to connect with a leader who can reveal his weakness. Isn't it strange? Now, if any leader projects himself as if he's a perfect, he knows everything, he has no weakness. After all, we all know to err is human. Everybody has some weaknesses. Nobody is perfect. So when you are as a leader, when you are able to reveal some of your weaknesses with your team members, you are able to show them that you are one of them. And as a result, people feel connected with you. Nobody wants to work with a perfect leader, because practically there is nobody like that. And this connection of the weakness, but at the same time, what you have to do, you don't have to show a weakness which is very fatal. For example, now you are a finance director, here I mentioned, and you do not, you should, okay, yeah, although I'm a finance director, but I do not know how to prepare a P&L account. What will happen? You will lose the respect of your people. So you have to be very, very cautious, that when you are revealing your weakness, the weakness should be such that directly or indirectly it is your strength. For example, work alcoholism. Work alcoholism is a person who is dedicated, who is addicted to work. Yes, it is a weak. So when you convey to some of your confident, yes, sometime I feel that I'm doing overwork, then the person is able to relate with you. So do not be afraid of revealing your weakness with your team members. It will not project you weak in their nose, in their eyes. Rather, it will help you in developing connect with those person. But yes, we have to be cautious that what type of weaknesses you are going to reveal to those people. Secondly, become a sensor. It's a very interesting point. For example, right now when I'm making a presentation to you, accordingly, this is a that I think you are able to see me, but I'm not able to see you. So I do not know what type of response I'm getting from my students, whether the students are getting bored or whether the students are finding it somewhat of relevance to you, whether the students are really liking it, I have no idea. Similarly, but when I'm in a class, 60 students, I'm delivering something, just by looking at the body language of my students, just by looking the participation in my class, I can make it out that they have understood this topic or they have not understood this topic. By looking at the blank spaces, the teacher can sense, yes, this is a topic which has gone over the board, वो उनके ऊपर से निकल गया. So then I can repeat the same example in a much easier way. So similarly, as a leader student, when you will be dealing a team, when you will be dealing with the people, you should develop a system or you should develop a mechanism where you can feel that what your team is feeling, what are the feeling. In front of you, they may be saying, yes, we don't have any problem, sir. Sab theek hai. Yes, sir, we are ready. But as a leader, you should be able to understand those subtle interpersonal cues. Subtle means which are not evident, but you have to go beneath the, like you have to develop some cues from some hints. You have to make it out. Really, are they happy, or they are just saying it happy because they want me to say happy? So you have to act as a sensor also, where you can understand the real feeling of your team members. Next is practice tough empathy. It's a beautiful example. Now, I would like to explain you this tough empathy in a way that the love that we have to our mother and we our father. Student, when I was doing my MBA in, let us say, 97, approximately 23 or 24 years back, when I did my MBA, so after during the holidays when I used to go home, I was very excited. So the moment I used to home, my mother was to be the first one to meet me. And the first question जो आपकी मदर से पूछती होगी, तू कितना दुबला हो गया, तू खाना नहीं खाता क्या, तू अपना ध्यान नहीं रखता और तू कैसा है. These are the type of questions that our mothers usually ask. But after meeting my mother, my father would be the second person. And the first question that my father would ask me, तेरे एग्जाम कैसे हुए, तेरी पढ़ाई कैसी चल रही है, और कोई परेशानी तो नहीं है. But so I'm more comfortable with the type of question that my mother is asking. But today I realize, had my father not been asking those tough questions, and he would also have been that soft the way my mother was soft, would I have been landed up where I'm right now? This, I think, and this is the experience that most of us feel. Our father seems to be tough. It does not mean that he does not love us. He is tough because he loves us. He is tough because he does not want us to go to adopt some wrong direction. So that when you say empathy, tough empathy, it means that you care for the people. My father used to send me the money when I was doing my MBA. The money was sufficient enough for me to survive for a month. The money was not less than that I have to starve, and the money was not much more than that I could indulge in some sort of wrong activities. He was sending me the money. So what does it mean by sending a tough empathy? Tough empathy means when you are giving the people what they want. This is not the tough empathy. Tough empathy means what they want is not what you are giving. You are giving them what they need to achieve. What they need is not what they want. There's a hell lot of difference between what you want and what you need. Right now, at this stage, everybody wants a bike. Everybody wants a Harley Davidson. But my father or your father may not be doing so, because they know what is right for you and what is not right for you. So similarly, students, when you are going to be a leader, first of all, you just keep in mind that when you are going to say no to somebody, people may not like it, isn't it? That is why you are more comfortable with your mother than your father, because your father say no. मम्मी से कहेंगे मम्मी पिकनिक जा रही है, I want to. Father say no point in going, you are having exams, just go and sit. So father usually say no and mother is always yes. So I'm more comfortable with my mother till now, but can't help it. So as a real leader, students, be keep in mind that you have to take the tough decisions, and when you take tough decisions, people do not like it. But we are going to be the leaders. We are not going to be the politicians, and it is not a job of a popularity. You do not seek popularity. You do not want to be popular. Now, as a teacher, when I say something harsh to my student, it is not that I am against them. When I give them the critical feedback, when I say the work that you have done is very shabby, the work that you have done is not good, it does not mean that I want to humiliate them. It is that because today, if I do not correct them harshly, they will not be serious with your work and they will falter in the bigger battle of their life. So, out of your love towards your team, out of your love towards your company students, you have to show your tough empathy. And last one is dare to be different. Yes, Now, sometimes what happens, you have to differentiate yourself because 10 people get a job at a level of sales representative, 6 are promoted to the sales manager, 2 are promoted to the zone manager, and 1 is promoted to the national manager level. So now you have to differentiate yourself. You have to identify the ways in differentiating yourself. For example, if I just make a bald person with a small speck, तो मुझे महात्मा गांधी की शक्ल बनाने की जरूरत, just by looking at few of the characteristics I can make it out that he is different. Charlie Chaplin, just by looking at a small mustache in between below my nose, I can make out that I am talking about the Charlie Chaplin. So similarly, you have to develop some of your marks, you have to develop some of your signature marks where you are able to differentiate. It can be the way you dress up, it may be because of your quality, it may be because of the quality of the language that you use, it may be the quality, the way you sit, the way you talk to the people. So now this is what we are talking about, that you have to differentiate yourself if you have to command the respect of your team members. Now, having done all these things, students, now another question is, okay, fine, now these are the things that I require to be a corporate leader and to reach the world. Then how does the management helps you? So now the few of the skills that management program teaches you, students, they are similar to what is required by the skills that we have just discussed. So if you are going to, the terminologies may be a bit different, but the essence is going to be the same. The first thing that you have to do is it enhances your credibility. है ना? For example, I have just told you in the initial stage of my presentation that you don't require an MBA degree, you don't require a BBA degree to be a manager. But yes, if you are having that degree and tomorrow you are going to present your candidature to any of the MNCs, how will they know that you have some knowledge? So when you have some degree with you, with your MBA program or the BBA program, so it will give you an added advantage that they will assume, okay, this student has undergone for a training of 2 years as an MBA student, or the student has gone under training for a period of 3 years. So this is the minimum amount of expectation that he would have learned. So definitely, if you are going for a management degree and any other graduate is there who is from a non-management background, believe me, students, you are going to have an added advantage. Why? Because the degree, obviously, you may not be getting a job just because of that. You have to need to have that cash. You remember that cash, KASH. Along with that cash, if you are having a degree, it will addedly give you an advantage and it will increase the credibility in the eyes of your future prospects, of your future employer. Secondly, this management program, during the tenure that you are with us, the rigor of this program, it helps you in developing a transferable skills. What I mean by the transferable skills, what does it mean? For example, at given moment of time, student, right now you are going to be a son of your father, you are going to be a son of your mother, you are going to be a brother of your sister, and you are going to be a friend of somebody, and you can be a student of some teacher. So as an individual, you are one, but at the same time, you are playing different roles, isn't it? So similarly, when you become a leader, so during the program of your management program, which enables you to develop certain analytical thinking, it helps you in developing a lot of assignments that are being given, the case studies that are being solved, the role plays that we do, the lot of simulation activities that we do. Now, when we put you in those type of situation, the real life situation, and helps you to think, so what happens? Your mind is able to think. Your mind is able to look at the things in a more analytical way, and your mind develops. So when your mind develops, now what happens? You may have got your first job in one particular industry, but tomorrow you may shift to another industry. Third, you may to shift to another industry. You may continue in the same industry at a different location, but if you are not finding it very suitable for one industry, you can shift to another industry. Is it doable? Yes. I have shown an example of Indra Nui. Now she started her career with Johnson and Johnson, which is an FMCG company, and then she shifted to some textile firm. Then she shifted to BCG. BCG is a consultancy firm, and then she shifted to Asia Brown Boveri, which is Switzerland, which is a very you can say dealing in the high-end products like like BHEL, and then she shifted to PF. But the basics remain, the transferable skills like critical thinking, all the analytical thinking, more or less they are going to remain the same. So what happens? It increases your employability throughout your life. If one industry is going down, then you can shift to another industry as well. Thirdly is your instill inquisitiveness, because What we are trying to say, the type of assignments, the type of activities that are being performed, there you are forced to ask more questions. More the questions you ask, more the learning you get. Because asking the questions, and it is always said that no question is a stupid question. And if you ask a question once, you may appear stupid only once. But if you do not ask a question, you will remain a stupid for the entire life. So that when we are having the presentations, when we are asking the students to deliver a lecture, now we are giving a rigor to a student where he is forced, or where we are trying to develop the feeling of asking the question. He should explore, so what, so what, so what. And in this way, he develops of looking at the things in an entirely different perspective, and he starts searching for more and more information, because he's inquisitive about what is happening in his industry, what his competitors are doing, what is happening in his domain, what is happening in his field of expertise. He's so inquisitive that he always keeps on learning new and new things. Then we have a strategic thinking. I have got one beautiful video that I will share with you right now, and a better communication. Yes, students, communication. Now, what I personally feel, research has not been, this is my personally feeling. I'm not wrong how right or wrong I am. Most of the problems that happens in our life is because of the communication gap. Even if you have a fight with your friend, even if you have a breakup with your girlfriend or with a boyfriend, even if some communications with your father, with your mother, it is because of a communication gap. And after some time, what happens, students, when you sit down with those people and you try to sort out the things, you realize actually there was no problem. The problem was so trivial, the problem was so minor that it could have been sorted out, and we have wasted 3 days, 4 days, or a week without talking to our friends. So the communication is the essence of leadership. And when I say communication, it does not mean you have to be a very good orator. It does not mean you have to have a very good English. It does not mean that you have to be very articulative in nature. Again, I will show one of the videos on communication where I'm using no voice. No voice is at all there, but even then you will see that how communication plays an important role. And lastly is your second lastly is your self-discipline, better time management. Obviously, without discipline, so nobody can imagine. And the last one is to broaden your horizons. So what an MBA is all about, usually what I tell during the orientation program, MBA is more about a common sense. But the interesting part is saying the most common thing is the most uncommon. Common sense is the most uncommon thing. Secondly, what the MBA gives you, it gives you a way of looking at the thing, student. It develops an orientation. It develops your mindset. It gives you a perspective. It teaches you that how you can address to a problem. It teaches you how to approach to a problem. It gives you different tools, different techniques, different mechanisms, different ways of different experience, that how the people address their issues, how the people reach to the identify the problem, and then to reach their decision. So it basically broadens your horizons. It broadens the way you look at the things. And last is your networking. And I'm a firm believer in today's scenario, students, merit is required to survive. But merit in the absence of networking will end up nowhere. You need to develop a network. So I have make it mandatory for all my MBA students that everybody has to be on the LinkedIn profile. Each student of mine has to have a LinkedIn profile. So by the time of the 2 years they complete their LinkedIn profile, they end up having connection with some of the good people in the corporate, which can help them finding some good job and finding some good summer internship as well, and they are able to develop that network with those people. So networking is very, very essential, because it helps you, just by sitting at one place, you get connected to so many people. The way you can get the work done becomes much easier. So now, as the thing says that one video speaks louder than 1,000 words, just I will share one video with you. It's a 40-second video. Amen. Huh? Okay. is students out of the box thinking. This is what I meant when I said out of the box thinking. Now, this is based upon your
Self-discipline is the ability to focus the will and make sacrifices in order to achieve a goal, whether it is immediate or long-term. It is valuable insofar as the given goals are aimed toward the common good. People who are self-disciplined display the following behaviors. They know how to identify their goals and what they want to achieve. They employ legitimate and adequate means to achieve their objectives. They know they must sometimes renounce pleasure. They are self-motivated. They know the difficulties and challenges they must face. They know how to distinguish between what is relevant and what is not. They understand that their body and mind must be in sync to focus on their goals. They know how to manage their impulses, as well as their negative and positive emotions. They are doing things. It can be exercised through physical and intellectual activities.
and this is a slide that you will appreciate the most. Thank you, one. So through this presentation, I have just tried to give certain amount of clarity that to be a corporate leader, how the management education can be useful to you. Okay, Mayank, that is all from my side.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure, Mayank. Yeah. Yeah.
So now we have a few questions from participants.
That's great.
The first
That's
question
great.
is, there's a question from Vitesh. Are leaders born or is a God-gifted talent?
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Very good question. Now, students, a lot of research has been done and has been proved that leaders are not born at all. Leader developing a leadership is just another skill. The way you go to a gym to build up your muscles, the way you learn how to cook a food, the way you learn how to paint. Similarly, leadership can be learned. It is a skill. It is not God gifted. It is not like it is not something God gifted. So please be assured that it is a skill which we can be learned through the perseverance and through the resilience if we are really interested. It is not God gifted at all. It is like any other skill that we need to learn. That's all.
So
Yes, ma'am.
there's one more question from there's a student. I can't read the name. What is the difference between management and leadership?
Oh, perfect. It's a very good question, Mayank. I would like to answer. Now, the basic difference, students, between the manager or a leader or between the management and the leadership is that a management he carries a position. He tries to be a leader by the virtue of the position. Now, if you are just a manager, then people will follow you because they have to follow you. It is not because they like you. But you can be a leader without even a designation. A leader is a person to whom the people want to follow. Given an option, not even it is not they have to follow because they want to follow. Now, sometimes what happens, sometimes we pay respect to our teacher. It's not because I respect that person, but I have to do so because if I don't wish him, then he will not give me good marks. Are you getting my point? But there are some teachers to whom we respect from the core of our heart. So similarly is the difference between the management and the leader. A manager can be a leader can be a manager, but this is what we have to see the what type of manager you want to be. So the point of difference between the management and the leadership or a manager and a leader for me accordingly is that a manager is something who tries to show his authority, who tries um, to whom you have to follow because you have no other option but to follow. But leader is a person that to whom you want to follow and you don't have to follow him, but you want to follow because you want to follow him out of his liking. So this is a very huge difference. He does not even a leader may not be having any tag of a general manager or a manager or a brigadier or a colonel. He may not be having any tag with him, but even then people follow him. Yes, ma'am. Over to you.
Just, there's one more question. Does management education prepare
Hmm.
me to be a manager or to be a leader? Does
Oh,
management
okay.
education prepare me to be a manager
Ah,
or to be a leader?
perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I would like to answer it in a way that it depends upon an individual. Ultimately, here I could not cover. There's a very interesting concept. Students, if you are interested, you can just go and search. There are 5 levels of leadership. There are 5 levels of leadership. The first level of leadership is positionality, because of position. So when you talk about the management education, for example, in a class of 60 students, the teacher teaches the same thing to all of them, but different students, when and even when the same questions are asked in the exam, students give the different answer. It does not mean that a student has given something different to different students. Teachers teaching the same thing, questions are same, but the answers are different. So the difference lies not in the input that is being given to you. The answers lies in the amount of the processing that has been done. So similarly, when we are giving a management education, through the same management education students, the leaders are produced, and through the same management education, the managers are produced. So if I request you to go and just have a look at the 5 levels of management, the first position or first level of the leadership is the positionality. Now it depends upon you. When you have become a manager, now it depends upon you whether you want to go to a level 2 or a level 3, or you want to remain at that level only. So if you want to shift to the upper level, you would be moving into the leadership. Otherwise, you will just remain as a manager. So it purely depends upon an individual to individual. The inputs will remain the same for the manager and for a leader.
Fine.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
there's a question from Ritesh.
Hmm.
Sorry. My communication is not good. Can I
Okay.
be a good leader?
Yeah. Hi, Ritesh. Can you hear me? I hope. I have very categorically mentioned that when you say communication, I do not mean what do you mean communication. When now you have very well communicated your question. You have written your question, which Mayank has just read. It means that you are a good communicator. I just told you communication does not mean that you have to be very, very fluent in your communication, because I usually tell to my class, and usually this is not a problem with you. Most of the students in at the initial phase they have problem. Why? Because भाषा जो है सिर्फ ये भावनाओं को या विचारों को अभिव्यक्त करने का एक माध्यम है. Your language has got nothing to do with your knowledge. This is what I'm just telling to you. Now there may be a student who stammer. Even then he could be a good leader, because leadership is more of a mindset. Are you getting my point? And moreover, the very interesting point, I would like to congratulate you that if you have identified your weakness that you are not good communicator, then you have 2 years if you are going for an MBA program, or you have 3 years to work upon that weakness, and your respective teachers are going to help you on that. So it is something which can be very well developed. Obviously, you can be a leader, no doubt in that.
So there's a last question from
Yeah.
Himanshu.
Yes.
Sir, which course helped me most to be a good leader or to get a job?
Sorry, I could not. Which course means?
Which course? मतलब he's a 12th student,
Hmm.
I suppose.
So is he
And
asking for an
which
option within
course?
the management program, or the different option that he have after the
No,
12th
no,
program?
just say which course helped me most to be a good leader. Which course can help me? Yeah, of course.
I think that he's at a juncture where he does not know which line he has to go. For example, if we can just discuss with him, what is his name?
Himanshu.
Himanshu. Himanshu, I think that we are in a stage where we are a bit confused at what I should do after my class 12. For example, if after class 12, you have so many options. Now you can go for BCom, you can go for BA with some foreign language program, you can go for BBA, you can go for BCN program, all those type of things. So if you see that the first thing that I did in my PPT was that, because most of the students face this dilemma, we should identify our goal. यू शुड सी दैट व्हाट टाइप ऑफ लाइफ यू वांट टू लिव इन फ्यूचर. अगर मैं अपने आप को फ्यूचर में विजुअलाइज कर रहा हूँ, डू आई वांट टू बी अ सीए और डू आई वांट टू डू दिस टाइप ऑफ वर्क. So this is what I'm just trying to, because leader can be in any field. Leader can be in any field. Rabindranath Tagore is a leader in his own field. He's a from poet. He can be a leader in any field. But yes, if you want to be a corporate leader, if you want to join a corporate world, if you want to get into some MNCs or good, then definitely management program is the best option for you. That is
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
my
Now,
pleasure, ma'am, talking to all of you. Yeah.
now I
Yes.
request you to please conclude the session, sir.
Okay. Now, unfortunately, because of this technology, I was not able to see all the beautiful and young faces, and I was just talking to this screen of mine. But anyway, I hope that whatever the effort I have made in last 50 or 55 minutes, I don't know how much I have been successful in conveying my message. But to some extent, I think now it will help you in getting more clarity to making a judicious decision whether you want to join management or don't want to join management. So whatever the decision you take, student, it should be an informed decision. It should not be based upon because somebody else is doing it or somebody else is not doing it. It is your life, it is your career, it has to be your decision. And one thing that I want to suggest you that if any moment of time you want certain amount of counseling or you want certain amount of discussion, please feel free to join us at MET. Our counselors will help you. And even if you want to talk to some of our faculty members like me, so we can arrange and separate interaction session also where we can just share our limited knowledge with you, which may help you in getting in making your the decided decision about your future. And Mayank, thank you so much for hosting this activity and giving me an opportunity to interact with all these future leaders. And I wish you all the best for your coming times. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Dhim tan dhan dhim tan dhim tan